This is Trekland HQ, I do believe, yes, and we are live. Hey, today, guest author Glenn Swanson and the two Klingon battlecruiser D-7s and TOMY's backer kit. Today on, yes, Trekland Tuesdays Live number 414. Wow. Coming to here from with Dr. Trek, that's me, Larry Nemechek, coming to you here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47, and yes, the home of Trekland Treks. Your customized away mission when you're in Southern California. Take a day with me. We pre-plan your stops. It's actual location sites. You can do whatever you want to do. It's a great way to bring Star Trek alive when you're on your Southern California vacation. Get in touch with me and we will plan it ahead of time, okay? LarryNemechek.com or TreklandTreks.com. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's so great to see everybody back. Yes, we got the chat going. Everybody jump in here if you can. We've got a guest day today. That means we're a little out of the old normal, but it's always awesome to have a guest. We'll be right here in a second. And before we jump into the guest, just want to say, hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, wherever you are around the world. Of course, we're at this time of day, so we can have our world folks with us. Europeans, the Aussies, East Asians, wherever you are, glad to have you with us. Yep, they're going to come popping in here any minute. When you do come on, make sure and let us know where you're coming from. Let us know how the weather is, how the trek is. And just a word, remember that if you are on YouTube, you're getting to see all the comments, right? As you can on Twitch, but when you're on YouTube, you take advantage of the Super Chat. Your donations through Super Chat are always really appreciated. We do have our Patreons that are helping us out too. Every little bit helps keep us going here with the stream, the network end of Trekland, as you may know. If you're on Facebook, that's cool, but you're only going to see the Facebook comments, okay? I really hope you come over on YouTube, and while you're there, please like and subscribe and ring the bell and do all the things if you haven't yet. We got into the YouTube game a little late, so my numbers are lagging. I don't know how some of these people have 1.5 million followers when they don't ever say anything of any substance, but there you go. Love to have you along with us. And if you're watching later on YouTube, glad you're here. Please like and subscribe while you're there watching us later. And maybe sometime you can join us live and join in the live chat. But meanwhile, please leave a comment. Okay? You can keep the conversation going. This is an awesome topic today. It's always fun when we have a guest. So I just want to jump into it. So he's been with us before. A lot of you will remember. And if you haven't got a copy, please do. It's Glenn Swanson, his book, Inspired Enterprise. It's all about the intersection of the Smithsonian, NASA, the aerospace industry, and how they helped the original 60s Star Trek. A little since then, but mainly this intersection, this community, and the history that's there. I've said for years it's a mutual love affair between NASA and Star Trek. The fictional space travelers, the real space travelers, they're mutually inspiring of each other. But today, and let me get him in here, today Glenn is got some more history for us. We talked about this ages ago. He's chronicling a lot of sidebar history to Star Trek that's so much fun. And now it's got a real world counterpart. If you're not familiar with the TOMY product, we'll talk about that too. So first, let's just get Glenn in here. Glenn, thanks a lot for joining us again.
Welcome. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I always am.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the irony is, I should say this, and I kicked myself last year, and now I've got double hoof marks because we did not actually have a moment. We said hello on the fly, and I forgot about you leaving Sunday again, and we have not had a real life selfie yet, even. So that's still on the list.
Oh, Vegas, even though the show goes for 6 days, if longer, if you're there earlier, the time just flies by, and it's super, super packed. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. So we've talked more like this than we have in real person, but and we'll do something about that in the future. But today, for one thing, the TOMY company, I don't know what we want to talk about first, start off and circle back. But Tomy has this amazing. They've got a backer kit going for their 2 versions of the D7 that there's, and it ends Friday. Can you tell us a little bit about what's that and how you got involved with the company?
Yeah, no, the campaign for the latest model that we're producing ends at 12 noon Eastern time on Friday. And we're well underway to meeting the goal. We lowered the numbers that we needed down to 2,000. Those that follow it will read that. And I think at last count, we were maybe 200 away from meeting that goal. And I don't think we're going to have any problem getting there and probably exceeding it. So those that are wondering if they're actually going to, get their model to meet the goal, I don't think you'll have anything to worry about. I think we're definitely going to meet that. But no, this is the 3rd model that TOMY has been producing as part of their premium line of Star Trek products. And it's the 2nd one that I've really I came on board on the 1st one, but kind of late because there were some other consultants that were also involved with it, as there are in each one of the models that we do. It's a group effort. It's not just 1, 2. It's a basically a panel of folks that are passionate about these products and know a lot about them. So yeah, I came on board a little bit later on the 1st one. I worked a little bit on the refit, but the Klingon one is the one that I'm especially proud of because, as I think we'll talk about a little bit here, the history, the connections to Stephen Whitfield,
right,
and to the original series, and because there's not a whole lot known about it. It came kind of late in the game. It was a 3rd season effort, so.
Well, just tying in the AMT back end, it's like the Galileo. It's like this. That's the oddest. It's hard to imagine. I mean, nothing is hard to imagine these days, but it's hard to imagine in the 60s this odd connection between this model kit company and this network television series, and how one is so much bigger scope than the other, but how they're money tight, and how they were able to have a win-win and help each other, and then how it happened again, and then talking about the Klingon battlecruiser, because D7 was the joke designation that came later and didn't get into canon until Ron Moore put it into Trials and Tribulations in 30 years later. Right. But how that none of that would have happened, we think of the Klingons as the major, aliens from original series. Duh, look what happened to the movies. And how they had no money for a ship and, time and speed and fighting to stay on the air if it hadn't been for AMT.
Right. No, I mean, AMT also, of course, produced the first model kit. And like you said, we would not have had the shuttlecraft, both the 22-inch miniature that was the filming miniature, as well as the studio prop, the interior of that studio prop, and the hangar bay if it wasn't for AMT.
Yeah, the hangar bay too, right.
Yeah, all of those things came along because even then, prior to the 3rd season, the studio was cash strapped, and it didn't have a lot of funds. And fortunately, AMT kind of came along and took a gamble and really, struck gold. I mean, that model kit, as I talk about in chapter 3 of my book, which is the 2nd largest chapter in my book, other than the chapter 7 about the Smithsonian, readers will find that they produced over 1 million copies of that kit in the first year, within the first year of its release, which was in 1967.
The largest selling plastic model kit up into that time.
Yeah, and it still is ranks up there as high because, as Jamie Hood mentioned one time when I talked to him from round 2, he says, that kit is just continues to be a bestseller because it never really went out of production. It just keeps going and going and going. Like
it's almost like Steve Whitfield's book, The Making of Star Trek, just kept being in print. And for one thing, in those days, the first 10, 20 years of fandom, there was so little you could get your hands on.
Right.
It gradually got better. We had the Tech Man, the blueprints, David Gerrold's books. And I'm not even talking about the novels. I'm talking about nonfiction material, reference material, and making of material. It was just so rare that but still, as you said, today they've kept the model kit through various owners and takeovers and whatever, that basic kit, and everybody keep trying to tweak it, stronger nacelles,
right,
stronger pylons.
The curse of the sagging nacelles to try to eliminate that.
Yeah.
But those model kits, both the Klingon, the Enterprise and the Klingon ship, and we can throw in Stephen Whitfield's T-Monster, the making of Star Trek as well, really were manna from heaven at the time of the series, because those were produced while the series was still running during its 3 seasons. As I mentioned, the Enterprise came out in 67, followed by the Klingon kit in the summer of 68. And then in the fall of 68, fans were treated starting September with the first edition that sold for, what was it, 95 cents? It was around $1 for the making of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Stephen Whitfield's first edition, the making of Star Trek. And it's like, these were just amazing gifts, to fandom at that time, because there was so very little out there at that time. And what there was poor knockoffs or rebranded issuing, items. Whereas
they just slapped Star Trek on that and hope we'd buy it.
That's right. Remco, bless their hearts, took something off the shelf and stuck Star Trek logo on it or Mr. Spock's name and started selling helmets or whatever. And the stuff was really, really crappy. We'll say the word, it was bad. But the model kits, especially the Klingon ship, they learned, I guess, from the first issuing of the Enterprise was quality. It was very well made. It's very accurate to the actual filming miniature, and it was not that difficult to put together compared to the Enterprise. The Enterprise, like you said, we had the sagging nacelles and everything, and it had some other issues with it as well as far as the details. But the Klingon ship was really, really good.
Yeah. Well, those were. I talk a lot about how the blueprints and the tech manual and the syndications, the syndication ratings get a lot after cancellation, and then what led to the rebirth. Fandom was out there, but it's one thing to say, oh, these Trek kids won't let this dead show die. But when people vote with their dollars, everything from the local stations that syndicated it went crazy with their ratings. And so everybody said, well, I want what he's having. The station managers would go to conventions, and those first Sinclair stations that Dick Block, the foresight of his 5 stations went 400% improvement on ratings. Everybody else said, well, I'll have that. I'll do that. And that's where the syndication boom happened. And then you've got the blueprints and then the tech manual being on the bestseller lists. And then you had the convention, and people are paying to go to New York for this thing. But you had actual money barometers, money talks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And people said, well, we can have all these kids, writing their fanzines, but if there's going to be money in this, then that's a barometer. But what you're talking about here is this was during the run of the show, and they were like factors that still, well, it wasn't Desilu by then, it was Paramount. And I think they were so hidebound by, what are the bean counters saying about making the show? Nobody thought about ancillary, forget syndication. Nobody was thinking about model kits and books being a factor in his revenue, much less a barometer for popularity. Now we know that, and Lucas did his deal where he got all the, he made a mint out of his toys, and that was a barometer of popularity too. But it was also financial lucrative. So it's like Star Trek is in there pioneering all this stuff, the things we take for granted now, and this is one more way. And sadly, in the moment, it didn't really hurt. In fact, let's talk about this. The Klingon, the book making of, and the Klingon model kit came out for 3rd season. They just had the Save Star Trek campaign, and then Gene backed away, and everything happened with the 3rd season. So it's almost like it wasn't like they were too late to help, but they kind of were too late to help. But I want you to talk about the model thing, because that's amazing. And the thing we knew just as students of watching it wasn't the D-7, the Klingon battlecruiser, wasn't the model kit out before it was on TV?
Yes. Well,
or before it was called a Klingon, it was Romulan.
We'll back up a little bit.
I'll let you tell your saga.
just to inform your readers, and of course you can read more about it in my book. Yeah. But when basically AMT, when they during 1967, in the fall of 1967, they realized they had a hit on their hands by that time, because the Enterprise kit was just selling like crazy. There's a famous memo that I wanted to reproduce in my book, fans have probably seen it online. It's a memo from Bob Justman. His memos are fantastic.
Yes.
I was always thinking a great book would be just a collection of the Justman memos, because he has a wit about him and a writing style that just is amazing. But there's one memo where he writes to Gene and others at the time about the model kit of the Enterprise, how it's doing really, really well, and they're on schedule to sell 1 million copies within the first year of its release. And there's coffee stains all over that memo. So I'm just visualizing Gene Roddenberry reading this memo, and then suddenly having coffee and just spilling up his coffee at the numbers. With the... just what really? That's doing that well.
It's the same kind of thing you think when they put the memo out about how their fan mail exceeded the Monkees fan mail.
Yes.
Which was your token, mail campaign.
Right.
So isn't that the same Bob Justman memo where he says that AMT has built, it's going 24/7, and they built a second machine because they can't keep up?
A second machine was going in order. And when I was researching the book, that million model kits within the first year, I was always kind of skeptical about that. And I'd heard from others too, could they really produce that many, within a year? AMT could produce one that year. And digging and talking with John Miller, one of the guys, he's Mr. AMT. He's been a wonderful resource. He worked for AMT, almost since the beginning, and moved with them as they moved around the country as Ertl acquired them and so forth. But he was telling me, he says, no, he said they could do up another tooling set. They could run these things 24/7. I mean, it's all about production and demand. If the demand was there, they would produce as many as possible. He says, no, we could do 1 million kits. And it wasn't just unique to Star Trek. There were other kits too, car kits and things like that were very, very popular at the time, that they produced a lot of them. So it wasn't out of the realm at all that they could produce 1 million kits.
Okay, the thing that just hit me was, and here I am, even like 10 years later after the first boom, and it's, in the syndication and in the rerun era. But I don't know how many, I'd love to do a poll. How many Star Trek fans, this is like Lay's potato chips. You can't build just one. Either you bought one and you weren't happy with your saggy pylons, your saggy nacelles, or you bought one, used their decals and weren't happy with it, or your skill just got better. Suddenly the crappy car model kit or the monster car kit you put together and you didn't care. Well, suddenly you want your Enterprise to look really cool, or it's got to look better than your buddies, and his look better, or you just learned to be a better model builder. Or in the 70s, you got the Estes decal sheet and you used the Estes decals on your, you know what I mean? Or you did want to do a whole fleet and have all the different model. But I don't know how many. It's like, I bet you can't buy and build just one. And I think that had to have added to some of that selling popularity.
Oh, I'm sure. And then AMT recognized that as well when they later came with the decal sets where they could build all 12. Remember, those weren't the first ones. The first one was just the Enterprise. If you want to make it, other than the Enterprise, you had to, use rub-on dry letter transfers that would try to match the font and all that sort of stuff, or cut and paste, to try to get the numbers right and everything from the existing set that they had. So AMT realized, we could encourage fans to build all 12 or build as many as they want by including more of the decals for the whole fleet at that time. But yeah, they sold phenomenally, a large number of them. And then in the fall of '67, AMT got together and said, hey, lightning could strike twice.
Let's do another one.
Yeah, they were rubbing their hands and said, let's do it again. So this time, let's build another cat. Now, surprisingly, and perhaps we're thankful for that, it wasn't the Galileo shuttlecraft, which came along later, although that was in negotiation at the time that the Enterprise model was being licensed. At the time, they were considering doing a Galileo kit, a shuttlecraft kit, because after all, they made the miniature, right?
I was going to say they were responsible for having it. So
how could they possibly make a horrible model kit if they were responsible for making the 22-inch miniature as well as the studio set? All of us are wondering that. And of course, after the series, the shuttlecraft finally came out. But fortunately, they set that aside until later, and they said, let's do the bad guy ship. Let's do the Klingon ship. Because the Klingons were talked about, previously, but nobody had seen their ship. Nobody really knew what it was going to look like. And so they did another exchange like they did with the Enterprise. In exchange for giving them the license, AMT the license to produce the kit, they would produce two models, a filming miniature that they would use for filming in the series, as well as a tooling model. And both of them identical, somewhat identical. There's some variations on them, but the tooling model that AMT would then use to produce the dies, they'd pantograph them to make the dies, so that they could produce the model kits. And so that's what they did. And so thankfully for them, we were able to then see the Klingon kit. Now the timing of that was interesting because the paperwork and everything was signed in late 1967, but the model kit, of course, didn't come out until the summer of 1968. So fans would start to see the kit come out before they saw it on the television series, which was really, really interesting, because, you go into your local hobby store in June or July and say, oh, here is the alien battlecruiser. What the heck is that? It says Klingon on the side, but, we've never seen it in television before on the series. And fortunately, then fans would see it in September, I guess maybe it was in October of 68 when we saw it on television, but it wasn't shown as the occupied by Klingons because it was in the Enterprise incident, which was one of 3 episodes that was being filmed. Day of the Dove and Anna Troyes were the others. And, production schedules are different than filming schedules. So fans saw the Klingon ship occupied by Romulans, which was really confusing, but, they get to see the ship. And then, of course, the other bonus was in September of 68, fans started to see Stephen Whitfield's The Making of Star Trek appear on bookshelves, bookstores, and then you saw sketches and drawings, the famous Matt Jeffries drawings, side profile, top profile, similar to what were used on the model boxes as well of the Klingon ship. So you had more information about the Klingon ship, during 1968, during the 3rd season.
And they had employed, and what I was just starting to get into rereading in your chapter 3 was AMT was adamant about, well, they had Matt Jeffries design it. It was going to be on camera, so he needed to design it, design the ship and the sketches. And we got the famous, the comparison sketches of the Enterprise and the D-7. Again, not called D-7 at the time. It was just the Klingon battlecruiser.
Right. Alien. It was called the Alien battlecruiser. The Klingon Alien battlecruiser.
Okay. As opposed to the Klingon Federation battlecruiser.
Yeah.
Don't want to get them mixed up. But the fact that they used Matt, and I was even reading there where AMT wanted, they even got into a little talk about budgets and tight on money. They got into a snit about wanting Matt to come out. Was that for the battlecruiser or?
Yep. No, yeah. That was for the.
So they were still. So did Oscar and Oscar Katz? Oscar, where are you? Oscar Katz was still writing letters and making these decisions. But I thought they were. Did he go to Paramount by then? Because by then they were Paramount owned.
Yeah, it was Gulf and Western.
Yeah, Gulf and Western owning
when
Paramount.
They acquired it. Yeah, I don't know if Oscar was still there or not, but I know the memos that you're talking about because I've seen copies of those and Stephen Whitfield's signatures.
Well, I was just reading it in your book, so that's why I was,
Yeah, I'd have to look at the endnotes again to get the particulars, but I know that there was an exchange back and forth. They wanted Matt Jeffries to come out to Troy, Michigan, which is where AMT was based, and to do the final details, for the master model and kind of oversee, placement and things like that before they started going to production. And, well, let's just say Paramount. Star Trek, they didn't want to send him, because it was there was a cost, of course, involved. And so there was an exchange back and forth. Unfortunately, Stephen Whitfield managed to step in and solved it so that MJ could come out there and do what he needed to do for the final detailing on the model kit so that they could make it in production. And what's interesting is Whitfield, he talks in Making a Star Trek about how he got involved with Star Trek. So there wasn't anything new. Fans knew about it since 1968. In the introduction, Whitfield talks right away about how he got involved with Star Trek, what brought him to Star Trek. He worked for an advertising agency called Patak and Associates, PTAK. Now there's a Klingon word for you, right off the bat.
That's funny.
And he worked on the account with AMT, and that's how he got involved with Star Trek. And then he was so good at working on that account with AMT that AMT eventually hired him hired Stephen Whitfield to work as full-time as their representative out there in Arizona. So the Klingon ship helped him in that regard, as well as, helped us as fans to, finally see it materialize. So Whitfield was heavily involved with the Klingon ship, which is another reason why I'm particularly fond of the TOMY model that we're doing, because of its close connection to, to Stephen Whitfield.
Yeah.
Because
now, refresh me. Did Stephen do the original deal for the Enterprise ship?
He worked on that account. He worked on that account. I think the account was given to Patak without him necessarily an influence on it, but he was assigned to that when he was working for this advertising agency.
And having that blow up was not a bad thing.
And then, he just kind of took it upon him, hey, this is really interesting. I want to know more and be involved more. And he worked well with Gene Roddenberry. Gene Roddenberry and him were close friends. They got along really well. Both of them were pilots. Stephen Whitfield was a pilot in the Marines, and he was a helicopter pilot, so they could kind of talk shop and everything. And then, working on the production, or working closely with the production, and their friendship kind of matured over the years, so much so that, after Star Trek was done, Gene Roddenberry gave Stephen Whitfield that tooling model. It was given to him as kind of in his appreciation. And the other big bonus too is that Gene Roddenberry gave Stephen Whitfield 50% of the royalties for the making of Star Trek. And we know Roddenberry was not necessarily the most generous individual.
Well,
Alexander Courage and others, right?
I think, yes. Well, people immediately go like the Sandy Courage theme song where he wrote the lyrics so he could get half the. Right. I think Gene could be very generous. I just think Gene was very paranoid about climbing the ladder in Hollywood, and I just think he was, and he just had a divorce by then,
right?
So he had a wife and 2 kids, but then he had a divorce to pay for and his new family, so going on. So I just think he was just I don't think it's much a character. Like, it can be a character flaw, but I mean, I don't think it was that he was necessarily.
Right. No, I think it was
trying to claw out everything he could, because tomorrow it might all go cold, and who would,
the industry at the time, it was very much,
boom and bust.
Competitive and everything. And you're always looking out, trying to promote yourself, trying to promote your product, bargaining about your product. So, but
your point's made. He splitting his royalties with
he didn't have to do that. No, he didn't have to do that at all. And, the relationship they had, the friendship they had over the years. Of course, tragically, Whitfield died. He was diagnosed with leukemia and then passed away.
I got to meet him once. I never got to do an interview with him, but he came to the lot because it was so cool. We didn't know what happened to him. I didn't have the wherewithal through the 80s to think about, I'm going to track down Steve Poe. And I was in Oklahoma, so what was I going to cross paths? And by the time I got to LA and things were moving along quickly, that's when he got the deal to do the Voyager book, which did not capture lightning in a bottle. I mean, it was an interesting read, but it brought back to me the only thing I did not like about the making of Star Trek that drove me crazy and led me to do the first thing I did in fandom, which was pull out all the referencey parts and organize them, because there's no index in the making of Star Trek. So if you're trying to remember, I want to find the bit about phasers, you have to flip through, and it's scattered. It's whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I didn't like. But he did the Voyager book, and he was on the lot one day, and we heard he was going to be around. And I had a copy of the new one, and I had my making of, and I got him to sign them, and we talked for 5 or 10 minutes. But I did never get to do I guess people have done interviews back in the day. Did you have some interviews you could pull from with him when you did this?
I didn't. I talked with his sister, Bobby. She's still alive, and her memory is really, really good. And so she was able to share what she knew about her brother. Personally, probably not so much about Star Trek, because she didn't really follow that so much. But she was just very generous, provided a lot of the photographs of Stephen, because, for a long time, a lot of us didn't know what he looked like at the time when he was working on Star Trek. There weren't really that many photographs, published of him. So it was interesting to see him in his military career. And growing up with him and his siblings, he had a brother, and then Bobby, his sister, as well. And then tragically, of course, his father died in an accident quite young, just during the midst of the Depression. But you'll read all about that in chapter 3. But he did not have a really, really good childhood. Things were rough at the time when his mom, became a widow, and they had to raise 3 kids. And then, it was difficult. But I think in a way that difficulty inspired him, and he saw within Star Trek, a future and hope and promise. And I think that kind of motivated him as well, to work on the series like he did.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about these Klingons.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these D7. So just to say, AMT did a deal a little bit not unlike the Galileo, only slightly different. So they're going to build. So Matt Jeffries designs it as he had the Galileo. They're going to build a filming model. There was no internal set. We never saw the ins. Well, we saw a one wall behind one of the Klingons, I think, in Ilana Troyes, nothing else.
Right, with a big trifoil in the background.
Right. But really, the trifoil was created by Matt, and the Klingon, a little bit of font. All that we got was what's painted on the side of one of the wings there.
Right,
the model, which is
registry number, we assume. For the ship. Yeah, from the original sketch.
But they built the 2. So you're saying one they built to film with, that they suspended by piano wire, right? When they're doing, and then both, the other one was what they used to planograph the actual model kit. So they built 2. And you're saying that there were some slight differences between
right. There's some details that are different on the 2, and we know that because of the few photographs. And that was one of the frustrating things about producing the model, is even though we had the AMT kit in front of us, which was really helpful, for the team that worked on it, we wanted to reproduce the filming model, just like we reproduced the filming model, the TOS Enterprise, for the first product, and then the refit. So we wanted to do the one that was seen on the big screen.
Now, you're saying you're talking about you and working with TOMY.
Yeah, as a consultant with TOMY.
So how did that happen? How did that come about?
Me working with them?
Yes.
Oh, well, Matt Cushman and what's the other name? I'm sorry. Now there's four of us that have been working on the Klingon ship, but there are others also that have worked on the previous ones. But we have myself and Matt Cushman and Carl Tate and the one that worked on the restoration of the Enterprise, the one that knows the Enterprise so well. Gary Kerr.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, Gary. Forgive me. I forgot your name. No, he's not forgettable by any means. He
knows
a tremendous amount about the Enterprise. So Gary Kerr, Matt Cushman, Carl Tate, and myself. We were among the groups on the individuals that worked on the original TOS, and I came along later on that as a consultant. And Matt Cushman introduced me to TOMY, as well as Gary Kerr. And then Carl Tate also came on board as well at that time. So I kind of went to Chicago when they showed the TOS prototype there at a show, and met Chris Heisman and some of the other TOMY team members as well. And I said, this is fantastic. This is like, I'm a kid again. You're producing the ultimate model that we all wanted, fortunately at a price that we can now afford, as adults, to make these, have these wonderful models. And so I kind of, because of my interest in the history of the show, and then I was working on the book at the time, I figured I could contribute something as well as far as the, history on some of these models goes. And so I came on board as one of the consultants as well, originally on the TOS Enterprise. I didn't work as much on the refit because I don't know as much about that. There's so much details on that, and there are others that just have a lot of information on it as well. But when we decided to do the Klingon ship, that was one where I could dust off my notes. I knew a little bit more about that because of the connection with Stephen Whitfield as well. So I worked a lot on that, as well as the others as well. It's a team effort. All these things, are extremely complex. They're very difficult to produce. And when you're dealing with, companies overseas and everything, and the tooling, all of this, these are all learning experiences. you learn a lot about not just the history, but then, how these things are manufactured and to keep them within budget.
Oh, well, so let me see if I can pull this up for just a second. We talk about the two. Oops, wrong. We talk about the two, and is what the differences between the two models. One was for filming, one was just to make the molds off of. Here we go. So this is from the backer kit campaign page.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the main difference here we're talking about?
Well, the two have identical details. The surface details and such are all the same on the two models. Because, cost of tooling and everything, it would be difficult, if not more expensive, to produce all the little changes in the tooling that are evident on both of the models. So they're both identical on all the physical features. The only thing that is different between the two is the livery, the colors. We have the all gray version, which we call, the filming model, and then the TOMY two-tone, the two colored one that we all know of as a result of the tooling model that first surfaced in 1998 when Stephen Whitfield put it up for auction to help cover medical expenses when it first appeared in 1998 at auction. Prior to then, we didn't really know a lot about the colors of the filming model. Drexler introduced us to that way back in 1977 when Star Trek Giant Post number 10 came out. Remember when that came out, the year of Star Wars? I think it was in March or later.
But that's where they talked about the two-tone, which threw me.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember if not the AMT instructions, the Estes flying model, but they tried to incorporate and tell you that it was a two-tone, a green and a gray, and you're going, what? Yeah. And you're watching TV going, what? I don't see any green on the.
The Estes kit didn't allude to any colors as well, because we've studied all of that to try to parse down what the colors are, of the color version. It was frustrating, with the filming model. It's almost as if the studios didn't know about color cameras. What photographs are out there of the filming model are only in black and white, other than what Drexler shot when he took photos when he examined both the Enterprise up close and the filming model at the Smithsonian. Because the Smithsonian received, of course, both models. They got the Klingon ship actually first in 1973. And that's a fun story that's been told many a time. It was in Star Trek magazine as well. But you can read it again in my book also, with DC Fontana, carried it on a plane in a garbage bag with the neck sticking out, and people started to see it on the plane and said, oh, that's a Klingon ship. So she took it out and showed it. This is according to Matt Jeffries too. He tells this story, and nobody took pictures of it, unfortunately, that we know of. I would love to see photographs, but again, cameras weren't as common back then, film cameras, so we didn't see any color photographs of it. But it was delivered to the Smithsonian in 73, and then we as fans saw the first real color, because it wasn't put on display. Unlike the Enterprise, which was put on display starting in September of 74 at the first Life in the Universe exhibit the Smithsonian had. And then it reappeared, of course, in the Life in the Universe again when the new building opened up in 1976. The Klingon ship was just in the vaults. We didn't really, that wasn't brought out for a nice big display by the Smithsonian. Although I should point out that it was brought out on display in 1974 and 75 at a little convention called the August Party. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it was put on by the University of Maryland. And it was, you can Google it, but it was called August Party. And they did a couple of conventions, and the model was brought out by Greg Kennedy, who was an employee at the time at the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian said, sure, you can bring the model out and put it on display at this convention so that fans can see it, but we need a Smithsonian rep to keep an eye on and everything. So Greg, who was fairly new as an employee at that time, is kind of the low end on the totem pole there as far as in rank, He said, okay, you're going to have to go to this convention. I know you hate to do that. You have to go to the Star Trek convention. He loved it. And keep an eye on this model so that fans can see it. And I want to tell that to you because I've been trying to find photographs of that at that time.
Surely someone at a convention,
somebody must have taken pictures. And I've actually contacted some of the folks at August Party that started the convention and everything. I said, do you have any color photographs of the model at that time that we could take a look at? And unfortunately, apparently they had a flood or there was something that happened to their photographs and or were their archives, the convention organized. They don't have anything. So those, if they're out there, those would predate what we see in the giant poster book number 10, because that was the first in mass publicly released color photographs. And then they weren't that great of photos, the quality of them, because that poster book was web printed, the registration wasn't that great. And Drexler and his team that worked on the poster book at that time, bless their heart, they took pictures of it, but they took it against a green background, which made it really challenging to adjust. It's almost like a green screen, right? To adjust, to try to, tweak color,
get an accurate hue to it. Yeah.
Because you look at that poster book today, and if it wasn't for Drexler's words that he says, oh, it's painted, there's shades of green. You can look at the text. The photographs really wouldn't reveal that. They're very, very subtle.
They don't help. You can tell there's a difference, but that you're almost when it rolls out the light and shadow playing on it. It's been a long time since I physically looked at it, but that is where it really imprinted about the two-tone. And even people who thought they were keeping up in the 70s, when we were kids, but you're like, what?
Right.
Yeah, how do you, what? Two-tone, what?
Yeah.
Green?
Because it doesn't look like that on the screens, I mean, when we see it, well, those of us, the majority of individuals at that time when the series 1968 were still watching Star Trek on black and white television sets. And so they couldn't tell. And even color television sets, remember, this was broadcast TV.
Yeah.
Wasn't that great. You certainly can't pick up colors. And then, we even have a challenging time now looking at high-res stills, of it. The argument still is out there. It's still controversial. What color was it? Was it gray or was it two-tone? Were there shades of green on it? What color was the filming model? What really was it at the time? So it's challenging.
Well, when the Smithsonian has the model, we know now what the colors were. Yeah.
Right. They have the model. Of course, it's all gray. Now it's in storage. They haven't brought it out. It's been painted all gray. But yeah, the model, the color of what the filming model is controversial. I'm of the opinion that it was painted all gray originally, because a lot of studio props, miniatures, were painted a base coat of gray. Mm-hmm. And we have evidence from Greg Jean, of all people, who recalls seeing one of the two models. He doesn't recall which one, whether it was the tooling model or the filming model, as being all gray. Okay, when he saw it. And I mentioned Greg Jean because Jean worked for Lincoln Enterprises back in 1968, mm-hmm. and we have evidence of that because if you go way back to a fan-produced fanzine called Inside Star Trek,
which was The Office did that.
Yes, it was actually produced by Lincoln Enterprises. Yeah. It was Gene Roddenberry's kind of organ at that time.
B. Joe and John did it first, Trimbles, mm-hmm. and then they lost it to somebody when they were kind of demoted. B. Joe talked to us about that on the Trek Files, and I forget who took it over. And
they didn't, but eventually it became part of Lincoln Enterprises, and it was just kind of their organ where they would relay inside information. It really was Inside Star Trek because Roddenberry, D.C. Fontana produced mm-hmm. articles. They had interviews with Matt Jeffries, Bill Tice. A lot of those early issues, which you can still find on the web, are really interesting because those early ones were produced during the third season
at the time.
Yeah, so you really had an organ. You had a forum where people could talk about the series while it was still being filmed. So that was really, really exciting, at the time. But if you look at issue number 2 of Inside Star Trek, on the cover of that issue is a drawing made by Greg Jean of a Klingon ship. And that issue came out in August of 1968. Now, that date is important because, again, this is prior to the release of the
Right.
making of Star Trek, prior to the release of the model kit. So for many fans, for those fans who were in the know that subscribed to that publication, were able to get their hands on one, they saw the Klingon ship, for the
Before
first time.
anyone else, right?
Yeah, before anyone else.
Either
Now,
way,
there
model
might
or
be some, there might have been some overlap with the model kit, because the model kit started to come out in the summer, so fans would have the model kit. But definitely it was an early release of showing what the drawing looked like.
It reminds me, the first time I saw the Enterprise D was in David Gerald's column in Starlog.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
When he would, David's first, and then Susan took it over. Yeah.
So that drawing, we poured over that, the team that worked on the TOMY Enterprise, because Greg Jean knew details. I mean, his sketches had things, and there are things in that drawing that are unique to the filming model. Okay. And so I think he saw the filming model of the two models that I mentioned earlier that he's recorded as saying, observed as saying, and that story's been verified by Richard Van Truen, who's also was another fan in the early 1970s that did a lot of
photography
articles on the miniatures, Best of Trek. Remember those? Did articles in Trek magazine back early on in the 70s. He would do a lot of the filming miniatures and focus on those. He also remembers Greg Jean talking to him and saying, yeah, he saw one of the two models early on in 1968. So we know Greg Jean saw one of the two models. I think he saw the filming model based on the drawing that he puts on the cover of Inside Star Trek. There are unique details to the filming miniature that are not present on the tooling model. So I think he saw that. And if he saw it and he said it's all gray, then I take that and I fold it back and I say, okay, look at the stills and I see the green light, being cast underneath it with the reflections and everything that are off of it. And the fact also that, the studio didn't have a lot of money at that time. Union painters would have to paint the model, okay, to the colors that whatever Matt Jeffries specified at that time. They just wanted to get this thing filmed.
So wait, what are you saying, Glenn? Are you saying that the whole green underbody is just some kind of folklore myth that took,
No, I think that when Drexler saw the model, okay, it's clear. He definitely saw a model that was painted two-tone. There were different colors, actually more than two-tone. If you look at it really close and analyze them, there's other shades of green on there and so forth that you can kind of see a little bit more complex. But
the lost episode, Shades of Green.
The shades of green, shades of gray and shades of green. So it was definitely painted, by the time the Smithsonian got it, was definitely painted something other than gray. It had the green colors on. Now, the big question is, when was that done? Okay. Was it done after they filmed it? Okay. When we think we see it as all gray? Or was it done before that? I think, okay, and this is just my opinion based on what evidence I found. I think it was filmed all gray, and then the studios painted it the two-tone after the initial filming when it was all gray. Now, the reason I say that is because when you look at the model that Stephen Whitfield has, okay, the model, we also call it the Paul Allen model. Remember, it came up on auction, and then eventually Paul Allen acquired it.
Right.
Okay. And for his museum, if you look at that really close, okay, there are little hanging balls on there. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And there are hanging balls also present on the filming model, of course, because now when I say hanging ball, there's these little beads. And if you look really close, you can see them in the giant.
They're on the model kit, or they used to be on the model kit.
No. Yeah, I don't think they were on the
little stubby points that
they were little balls. There was one on the neck behind the bridge, and then there was one each on the corners of the primary hull. Okay, basically 3 points where they could hang the model so that we could get those really cool underside shots that we see in Enterprise Incidents and everything. And the Stephen Whitfield model, the tooling model, has those on there as well. And I've always wondered, why did they have those on there? Okay, why were they on there? Is it perhaps that because they painted that model the two-tone as well during the time of the studio, okay, and that they were going to film both of them which is perhaps might explain why the registry number on the Stephen Whitfield model has the little dash, on the end of it, the little comma, the little exclamation point, whatever you call it.
Oh,
So that at a glance, you could see the differences between the two models, because the filming model doesn't have that on there. And Stephen Whitfield's model does. So it's kind of a theory that I've been tossing around, that perhaps it was they did do the two colors because Matt Jeffries wanted it to be those two colors. He even talks about that in an issue of Star Trek magazine where he says, the color of the model it kind of reminds me of the manta ray. It should be different shades of gray, different colors, that were on it. So it's possible that maybe it was painted. Both of those models were painted later for additional filming, because remember, the Klingon ship came out in '68. It was very popular. Fans started to see it on their on their sets, on the television show. They started to see it in the model kits, like, we want more Star Trek, we want more Klingon ships. So maybe they were thinking about filming more stock footage of the Klingon ship and adding it with that two-tone color.
Yeah.
So it's controversial. We don't know for sure, what's going on, but this is just an idea that I toss out. I touch on it a little bit with some other evidence in my book so that fans can kind of look at that other side about the two-tone.
Well, I forget this until we have this conversation, and then I remember. I need to go dig, as I'm starting to do now that we've moved and I've got everything in one place. But when back in, as you said, was it 97? When maybe sooner than that, when Steve Poe was at the lot and he was doing his Voyager book, and he brought his model into licensing, and it sat on the table in the little licensing room we had then. And everybody, it's like, if you want to take pictures of it, I mean, I have slides that I took of his model at that time. I have to go find them. Are you going to slap me now? Like, why didn't you mention
that? Would be interesting. You have color slides then, basically, of the tooling model that Stephen Whitfield had
at that time before it auctioned to Paul Ellen.
Right.
So, but he brought it by for everybody to see, and for them to use. He brought it by for them to get measurements and photos of. And it was his model. So he retained, obviously the show got the filming model. He retained the one used for AMTs and the die making for the model kits.
Right.
So his model was that one. Anyway, but I remember, but that was in two-tone then, because I remember thinking, oh wow, it really does have the two-tone. I didn't know what the chronology of all this was, the way we're trying to get into it now, but and I took a lot of different angles. I was like, I can't believe I'm looking at this was only 30 years later.
Right.
I can't believe I'm looking at and I was confused in my head at the time. I remembered thinking, oh, this is the filming model. And then a day or two later going, no, wait, the filming model is at the Smithsonian. What is this? And I didn't know the whole story at the time, but it was obvious. It was Stephen Poe's Klingon model that he had that Gene gave him.
Right.
And that's all we knew,
Yeah.
We didn't know all
and that
details.
model too, the colors are interesting, because if you try to look at the poster book as well as other photos that have been out on the web, because there's a lot more story to the filming model. I mean, we could go for hours and hours on that filming model. What happened to it, in conjunction with when Magicam, when they received the filming model from the Smithsonian, and
for the motion picture, and then the motion picture.
When they were working on that, and then when Ed Miraki got the model in late 91, early 92 from the Smithsonian, so that they could basically restore it, to put it on display for the 25th anniversary. There were a lot of things, that happened to that model.
Well, I remember all the controversy about the Enterprise. I didn't realize that Ed Miraki. Do you have that in the book too? I haven't.
Yeah, that's just touched on briefly. Yeah.
Okay.
Touched on briefly, but because again, Miraki painted it all gray, and prior to then, it was painted in the two-tone colors. We know that obviously from the Star Trek giant poster book, and so it's all gray. And, he based that color on photographs that were provided to him by AMT. which is interesting because if AMT had some photographs of that model kit in color, or either that or there was some notation on them that indicated what the colors were, that would be fantastic. I've never seen those. To have those as a reference, but it was painted all gray. So the two-tone shade, was painted gray by Maraki's group, and then it was put on display, and fans, might remember seeing it in 1992 at the 25th anniversary exhibit, and then it went on to the planetarium in New York as well after that for a time, because it was a very popular exhibit.
Well, I'm just going to say, if everybody who has stuck with us live, this whole, our entire conversation here about the two-tone versus the monotone Klingon battlecruiser, the D-7. If you're stuck with us this far, guys, you have to be real weed dwellers because that's where we have been, in the weeds. But talk about what the TOMY project is about and what's going on. And I'm going to put this in. This is the backer kit, and tell people what's going on and how this is financing, and maybe just even a little bit about, TOMY is one of those toy names that I know, but tell us what they've done recently and the fact that they're putting all this effort into, they did an enterprise, right? And now they're doing this, and how a backer kit, which is like a crowdfunding campaign, right? How this is all working out. What's the structure here?
Yeah. I
just put the link here for their backer campaign. The backer kit campaign.
Sure. They've obtained licensing to do from Star Trek to do models, and we've been doing.
Yes, this is all licensed, everybody.
Right. Yeah. They're all licensed. We started with the TOS one, and our goal is to do essentially the same kind of format that we did starting with the TOS. Is we back one. Once we reach that funding goal, then we go into production, and then the model comes out the following year. So it's kind of advertised, promoted as a backer campaign on the first year, and then once we reach that goal, then we start the finished tooling, tweaking, adjustments to the model, and then it's produced the following year. The refit, that was one that we premiered at Star Trek Las Vegas last year, as you recall, and showed it there. Mm-hmm. And then we met our campaign goal quite early on that. That was very, very popular. And then that's going to be released or shipped starting in November. That was the latest I've heard, is early November, when the finished kits will go to all the backers. And so now we're doing the Klingon D-7, a bad guy's ship, finally, and doing the same campaign type program where we announce it, we release it, the backer program at Star Trek Las Vegas, and then a year later deliver it. And so that's kind of the formula that we're going to continue with in producing these models as we go along.
And again, I'll pop this up just one more time. There's basically but there's different, people can order different options, like lit, unlit.
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. The only options that you have is, in addition to quantity, and I stress quantity, you can order as many as you want, but either basically ordering the gray or the two-tone, the TOMY two-tone.
Okay.
Those are really the
TOMY
only
two-tone.
Yeah. The prices are the same on both.
There we go.
Those are $700, $699, I think, and then $50 for shipping. So basically $750 a piece. And the only options are you either have the two-tone or the gray. The functionality of both models is identical. We've got different modes, as it explains on the web page, where you can have it unlit, which is like the original. I remember when we had a lot of people say, well, the original was never lit. Well, we know that it was never lit. Well, at least internally, externally, obviously we're talking about.
Right. Well, yeah, internally lit.
But
right.
Internally the lights, but we have this on off switch, where people can choose to not turn the lights on internally and then turn them on externally. We're still kind of tweaking the lighting format a little bit on the internal lighting.
So you can order it internally lit.
No. They're both. They both have.
Okay.
All of them have that. All of them have the options of the lighting. I should say, not the options. The options of the choices of lighting for the controls, okay, the different lighting modes, okay, each one of the models has that same different modes of lighting, but no, the only options on the two that you have is you can either order the gray or the two-tone. All the electronics and everything,
they all come with lighting internally.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, there is no option to get a dummy like your AMT kit again.
No.
Okay.
No, the only option for no lighting is just turn it off. Keep it off.
Okay, so that's
don't push any of the buttons. Or
I thought I was like, because his image here is lit. You can tell through
the communicator too, the Klingon communicator. Also, you can control the different lighting options. The lighting stages on them from that. But it's the same.
No, wait. The control unit is the Klingon, the little angle.
Is the communicator. Yep. You saw that if you were at Star Trek Las Vegas. A lot of fans, it was fantastic because they were picking up, a Klingon communicator. It's like, whoa, this is the first time I've seen a Klingon communicator. And we kind of, we had a lot of fun with that. We wanted to have that as an option for the control, of it, because, Bluetooth, radio frequency, we have all that luxury, at ease of accessibility with the electronics and relative ease of it. And so, Carl Tate did a fantastic job using the very limited images that are out there showing the Klingon communicator, the lid, and so forth, to mold or fashion a realistic looking, Klingon communicator with the colors, and then the sound, of it as well. I think at Star Trek Las Vegas, we had the chirp from the Federation issued communicator. We're going to change that to a different sound. So
an ominous chirp.
Yeah, probably the one from Star Trek 3, I think, is what they're leaning towards on that. So, one of the things we want to stress is that the model, this is a prototype, that was shown at Star Trek Las Vegas. There will be changes. We're taking feedback from the fans to make tweaks and adjustments. We talk about the lighting, for example, on the original filming model. If you remember, even looking at Stephen Whitfield's model, they're all decals or painted on, the lights. You had either solid dots for portholes or open dots for portholes. Well, what does the solid one represent? Does that represent a lit porthole or do the hollow ones represent a lit porthole? So those are things that we're juggling around to show so that when it is lit, which ones we like.
I just think if Hallmark Ornaments can do it, you need to have a control on your remote where you press it and you get soundtrack and it's dum dum da da dum.
Yeah, the famous tones, right? Yeah, dun, 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 or
Well, I mean, the Klingon theme that the 2 episodes where it was a Klingon and you actually saw it, it was that. Yeah, especially in Alana Troyes, because all it did in Day of the Dove is just get blown up.
Right, right at the beginning, didn't it?
They blow up their ship. They beam them over, blow up their ship, and all you do is see it implode. The only time it's actually used in motion,
right?
They pan across it, is in Alana Troyes, which everybody remembers as a big Klingon show, but it was that. Right. Yeah, they're playing cat and mouse. Let me dive in here to the and just so we're saying once again, the backer kit campaign ends
this Friday. I believe it's 12 p.m. Noon on. I think it's at noon Eastern time. You'll see it on their webpage, but I think it's around noon.
So 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon.
Right. Okay. It says it on the backer campaign about the time.
5 p.m. UK time. Pardon? Can you take foreign backers?
I believe they can. Yeah, you'll have to look at the web page again for the details, but I think there is a notation about for European or UK people who purchase it from that.
I'm just looking at. I'm going to dive into the chat now because we've been going at it for a while. So here's Scott. Hi, Scott. He is here. What's the bottom part of your shirt say? That Enterprise is gorgeous. You told me what this was.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah.
It says, it's kind of fine print, but to boldly go.
Oh, I thought that's not tied into a show or okay.
No. This one, I actually got this at Star Trek Las Vegas. There was a vendor that was selling art there, and I like kind of the simple, side profile of the Enterprise, the starboard or the port side of the Enterprise, which you don't really see that often on the original series.
Joel says that D7 was very impressive when I saw it at STLV. Yes, indeed. Could you want to tell the story? I did not know this story until about 5 years ago, where the D7. I knew the D7 because it was. Where did I see it first? Was it really Jeff Mandel's Klingon Guide? I think the first time I saw it called a D7 was in Jeff Mandel's follow-up to his officers. Anyway, and he tried to come up with some other Klingon ships for a fleet.
I think he did.
And a D7. But then I heard later on that it started in the day as a joke with Shatner, Nimoy, and Roddenberry.
Yeah, you can read. Yeah, you can read all about that in TOMY, The Making of Star Trek. You know, Stephen Whitfield talks about that. There was some joke that.
See, I'd forgotten.
I think it was.
I can't believe it's in TOMY because
it was a conversation between Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner. They were on the set, and then they were going to play this joke on Gene Roddenberry. And so they basically kind of went at it about, no, that's not a D5 or something. That's a D7 class, you know, or D7 something. I just Google. I can't remember the page number, but if you look in my book, you'll be able to see it.
It's in there too. But the idea was they made a big deal and said, Gene, you have to. Shatner, Nimoy, Bill, and Leonard are fighting over this thing. You have to go settle it.
You got to settle this. And Gene Roddenberry was oblivious to the, that it was just a joke. Says, all right, guys, calm down, and then, they basically let him in on the joke that it was just all made up, to kind of relieve stress on the set at the time. And what's interesting, though, is, and we took this, is that, is D7 D-7 like K-7, or is it D7? We've been using D7 with no hyphen between it because that's how it's reproduced in The Making of Star Trek. As far as the printing of it, on the tour. Geeks like us, those little details are important.
Well, that's like everybody from Gene, Dorothy, Gene Kuhn, everybody in their scripts on the original series. Starfleet was 2 words, Starfleet.
Right.
And the only time we see it in print is in the order, the General Order number 7 order about Talos 4, when they open it up at the hearing. Right. And Starfleet is 1 word. So despite what all the writers wrote constantly, the one time it's on screen, it's 1 word. And so, that's
the same thing with K7. I used to type it K7, just like D7 with no hyphen between. But then in the script, it's actually a hyphen. There's a dash between the K and the 7.
But isn't there, now that we finally got photographs to show the actual film model, isn't it it's a hyphen on the film model too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in the dome, on the center dome there.
Right.
The big tall one, you can see it. But, you really have to look because it's kind of broken up or whatever, with the lighting and everything. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, the same thing on there.
Okay. Well, good luck, Captain Calvin, on your ships. Yeah. It's funny. We talk about these stories and these little bits and pieces and these moments that just happen, and that's what transpires. But it killed me when Ron and Renee did the Tribulation script. It's like Ron intentionally put D7 in the dialogue because until then it technically was never canon, although that's what we'd always called it. 20 years of fandom had called it a D7, and building off the story, and then Jeff's zine helped perpetuate it, and different places perpetuated it, but it was not canon until now. That's been 30 years, but at the time it took 30 years to get it on screen, which is funky. Okay, guys, if you want to do questions or comments, I'm way back at the beginning here. I'm back scrolling, not doom scrolling, but I'm back scrolling.
I mean, we had fun going through the original.
Yeah. The Justman Memos would be a great title. Yeah. The Justman Files.
Yeah, the Justman Files. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Scott's with you. I'm with you. Captain Calvin, I guess we should explain. I'd say this like everybody knows it. Yes, Chekhov's haircut was based on Davy Jones's hair because they looked a lot alike, and he was hired, Walter, in the day when he was playing young Russian students on dramas. That was his shtick, and he looked a little bit like Davy Jones, and so they went for the same kind of hair. But the Monkees was the hot thing, also on NBC. But it was the hot show, and when they almost canceled it, they had a huge letter writing campaign. Boy, now I'm trying to think. I think they did succeed. But I just know that it was a big deal when Star Trek's fan mail got ahead of the Monkees fan mail, because that was, Screaming Teen Queens 3 years after the Beatles hit.
Right.
So,
and that was a popular model kit too. AMT made
the Monkey Mobile.
The Monkey Mobile, and then I don't know if they did the Monkey Mobile. I'll have to double check that. I know they did the Man from Uncle Car, and then they did the Munster Mobile and the Dragula. Remember the coffin, from Munsters?
Oh yeah,
those were really, really popular ones. I think they did the Monkey Mobile as well, because I think that came up in some memos about how they were comparing the sales of the Enterprise to the Monkey Mobile, because that was really, really popular.
What now, car or kit?
Well, that's true. They did TOMY is producing kit. That's right. Okay, ITT with the periods, from Knight Rider. Yeah, that's coming up.
What? Oh, oops. No, I don't want that. Here we go. Did somebody else answer this? Hey, Captain, we're going to fill you in on your unknown 60s, 70s cultural stuff here. I said Estes. Glenn pronounces it Estes. I may have said it wrong all these years, but it's the decal sheet from the
flying
the
model
decal fleet was the AMT when they put all the ship names in. You could build.
Right.
Now we know the Farragut was not Constitution class. Thank you, Strange New Worlds. But or you could do the Constellation and just take your 10 and 17 and flip them like the way they did on the show.
Right, exactly.
But you had the names of all the other ships in the fleet, which I almost wonder if that's why that memo we have that Dorothy wrote that they came up with. I almost wonder if that was an internal thing they did for AMT now. It's almost like we should get the data. Do you know?
Now, what's the question? Which
So there's the famous memo that Dorothy wrote to Bob Justman. They were all talking about what are the other names of the Constitution class, of the Starship class. And there's the memo where they have them all, the Exeter and Essex and Potemkin and yada, yada, yada. And the Defiant is not on that list, which to me is just, that's a Fred Freiberger, not looking or caring. But all the ships up until that time, the Constellation was on it as destroyed. And they talk about the Farragut being destroyed and the Valiant although there were two Valiants. They wrote a memo to say, okay, let's establish, because Kirk tells what's his name, there's 12 ships in the fleet, which, and then they tried to come up with the 12 names. But I'm sitting here wondering, since it's almost like, since Bob Justman is an overburdened, fretting, budget conscious producer trying to get a crazy, insane show on the air without everybody having ulcers and falling down dead. And he's writing a memo about the model kit selling so well, which was good news when they're beleaguered. I get that. But if he's doing that, I wonder if that whole memo that's famous about here's the 12, they hassled about it. There's 2 or 3 has 2 or 3 memos about throwing out ideas. And then finally they said, okay, here's the established 12 ships in the fleet. And I think it's Dorothy's memo to everybody. And now I'm sitting here going, was that totally just to satisfy Stephen when he said, let's have I'd want to when did the fleet decal sheet come out? Now I want to go.
That was later.
Like 70s?
Well, I think it came out. I don't know if it started.
You see what I'm saying? If it was on the heels of the first wave.
I'll have to look, because they actually promoted it on the box. There was the long box and then the short box. And I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, that the jacket, the advertisement for the jacket and then the promotional, there was something on the box about build them all, now includes, decals to build the whole fleet.
Yes. Build the whole
was
fleet.
on a later a repop, and it might have been the short box. I don't know. I'm going to have to dig. I should know that, but
all I'm saying is I wonder if all those memos were actually generated by a request from AMT to give the mothership, let us do the official list of other ships. It feels like that was too late for that memo. They actually did it for the purposes of the show. I don't know.
I don't think it was done for the show. I think it was done after, because the kit lived on in the 70s.
Yeah. Of course you had to build 2 bridges, Scott. You had to finish out the circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you had that chart too in Court Martial where it showed, in Commodore Mendez, his office. Yeah, you know, on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all the different ship names. You know, I
Yes.
know people were tearing that apart. I can't remember how that got resolved with the memos that appeared in the making of Star Trek, but I know that was, you know, part of the discussion too.
Right.
About, okay, we see
Right.
all
Right.
those that are on there.
What are you saying here, my figure? He's absolutely correct when it comes to models. It's hard to stop with just one. Yeah, Starship models and Lay's potato chips. No one can build just one.
Oh yeah, and I mean they're relatively inexpensive. You know, when the kit first came out, it was
Glad you guys got together.
$1.95. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't. You know, people could could shell out that kind of money easily to to be able to to have as many kits as they wanted.
So Captain Calvin, you're talking about just ship porn here. What we're talking about is you built the same thing over and over again. You either tried to get better, or you learned how to paint it better, or you got someone else's opinion, or you remixed your red for the nacelle caps for the Bussard ram scoops, you know, whatever. Captain Calvin says, whatever happened to come on, AMT Ertl owned AMT for a while and then sold it off.
Yes. Yeah. Which is interesting because TOMY is their U.S. Main office is in Dyersville, Iowa, which is where Ertl was formed. So it's kind of interesting, you know, history kind of cycles back around.
See, I always thought Ertl was a European German company or something.
Yeah, basically old man Ertl. No, he was a gentleman who started making die-cast farm toys back in back in the day.
Okay.
Sort of like you know how AMT started, Aluminum Model Toy Company. They made aluminum model cars, you know, and then eventually they started doing injection molding cars
for the industry.
Dealers,
they made them really
right?
as for dealers, right? Yeah,
exactly. It was ingenious. It's like, you know, you come look at a car, we'll give you a model of it, take it home, the kid can play with it, and then, you know, you could look at it and hopefully buy the real thing. So, you know, it worked out really well. But Ertl in Dyersville made metal farm toys, and they're still, you know, they have this huge convention every year there that's the largest farm toy convention in the world, you know, where literally farmers come. They have it twice a year. They have it in the spring and they have it in the fall, and they'll come and, you know, trade, buy, sell, and trade, just like we do with you know, toy shows.
I had Tonka toys and had other things. John, you know, we had tractors and farm stuff when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
it was a thing.
And so Ertl was eventually bought out by TOMY, and then TOMY still has, you know, the warehouses and everything there that Ertl used originally. So yeah, so it's funny that the TOMY connection goes back to when AMT was acquired by Ertl. You know, it's like now we're doing large metal models, you know, of the thing, but under the TOMY name instead.
Oh look, let's see. Oh, looking, everybody. Looking. Good to see everybody here. I'm especially looking for questions since we're into our hour here, and I'm not trying to be too abusive on Glenn.
It's been great. I've really enjoyed talking with you.
Collecting Trek. Oh, this is the Inside Star Trek 2 cover. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for that link, Scott. People can see it.
You can find it on the web too, that cover. Just I think Memory Alpha has a listing. If you type Inside Star Trek fanzine to distinguish it from Inside Star Trek: The Real Story, which was the book version, you know, not the book version, but the book by similar name, you'll see all the covers in there, and you'll see number 2, you'll see little backgrounds of them. You'll also see artwork by Andy Probert, a very young Andy Probert, who also contributed. And if you actually get a copy of, I think it's the 3rd issue, you'll see a letter by a very young Mike Akuda. Printed in there. From Hawaii.
Well, if you ever get the Trek magazine that came out about 1979, you'll see a letter from a very young Larry Nemechek.
There you go.
And that's that same issue, or just adjacent to it, there's a letter from a very young Ron D. Moore also.
In the
Trek in the slick, the glorified fanzine slick back. Yes.
I've been always wanting to reach out to him because he has an AMT kit that he built when he was a kid, and he still has it, and he's kept it, and supposedly he actually used it as set dressing in Star Trek The Next Generation or something. It's back there, and I would love to talk with him about that model and look at it really close. It's a model
we should
kit
get you guys. We should get you guys hooked up, because he was on the Trek Files talking about Inside Star Trek.
Yeah, album. I didn't get a chance to see him in Vegas.
So, here's a good question. When they remastered TOS, did they do the D7 as the two-tone? Are you familiar?
When they you mean when they remastered the
effects for original series?
Did they enhance it as a two-tone? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I mean,
that's a good question.
We could run over and look at get the Trek Core clips from the HD.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. I didn't think about that. If they did something on that, I'll have to look. That's a good question.
There you go.
That's worthwhile to take a look. I know in the animated series, we were pouring over the animated series as well. Oh my gosh, to see the different colors and the schemes on that with the combined sensor.
Well, that's the famous D7 with the pink panel.
Right, with the pink and then the little bird of prey, on the edges, and then with the disruptor sensor sticking out just like it was in the original AMT model kit. Instructions: you can't make it flush with the bulb, you have to have it stick out like an open mouth.
Yes. Oh yeah, yes. I forgot about that. The little circle down there. Yeah.
Because I'm looking at that original. I'm looking at those original instructions, yellowed from the first kit, and there it is, sticking out. So it's like, I got it wrong.
Let's see.
But that's the charm. That's the charm of those early days.
Sherry, I'm sorry to hear about you being sick, but I'm glad. Hopefully things are better well here. I'm just trying to find questions for Glenn before we let him go. Okay, there's that again. Once again, there's that. There's the URL for the backer kit campaign. Were the Klingons divided into the two-tone and the monotone camps? Like bumpy heads, smooth heads.
There were three groups, just like the trifoil. There was the gray camp, the two-tone, and the pink camp. So there were three different color versions that they would argue about. So we have the animated series. Panel. Something about that pink in the animated series.
Let's see.
Somebody says it looks very gray and metallic in the remastered TOS.
Okay.
So they might have kept that, to kind of reflect what was shown in the original series.
So you said something about $50 shipping on a $700 model. Is it commensurately higher for out of country, or do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. That would be a good question to ask TOMY Plus folks. You could ask them. They're very good, by the way, of responding the comments and questions that people post on their Facebook page.
I feel like they'd have to be. They're pretty close to it.
They have there's a team that stays on that, and they're very, very good about either directing you to the to the links where the question was previously answered, or if it's something new that they'll respond. So
let's see. Yes, Sherry, they are all lit. I was the one throwing you the wrong direction.
Yes.
There.
Yep.
It's not a question.
Yep. The only differences between the two are the paint colors. All the functionality of the two models are identical.
Yes, there was a Klingon communicator. We're talking about the original series Klingon, which there's one, but then Kirk uses it for the Romulan communicator doesn't he? In Enterprise Incident?
Yeah, one of the best shots that we've fallen back on, I believe, was from Elan of Troyes, where the spy, Kirk is in I think he's in the engineering room, and he picks it up, and he opens the lid, and you see that little almost look like an EKG logo on the silver lid. You know, it's a scribble.
Yeah.
And he holds it up and says, you know, Klingon or whatever. I can't remember the lines, but there's that. And then, yeah, they're very brief. There's definitely no pictures on the inside of it. You know, the design of that is purely speculative on what it looks like.
Oh, okay. I saw that there was a slight sculptured inside to it.
Yeah, there is, but there aren't any you know, grabs from the original frame grabs from the TOS, you know, the original series that show that.
So I didn't realize that there was a graph, but apparently Joel says the two-tone has more backers right now than the shooting model, the monotone.
Yep. I mean, it's that, and again, the main reason that we offered the two colors is because of the, you know, I don't know if it's a controversy, but it's just basically what we remember seeing it as kids, you know, on the television versus, you know, and it just gives more flexibility. So people can say, oh, you know, it's gray. Definitely it was gray. So you can buy the gray one or the two-tone, you know.
So you know. I guess we answered this, Ian. You'll just have to see what the pricing says on the site. He's talking about shipping to the UK.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't want to speak for Tommy on that because I don't know the answer to that. I know within the US, it's basically $50 shipping. So, and I think it says that on the web page.
So it is what it is. There's nothing that we can tell you different.
Yeah,
or
I just don't know if it is extra for UK, if that's on there. But when you back it, you'll see, you know, the amount.
He likes a little shuttle bay. The D7 has a little shuttle bay.
Yes. Matt Cushman and Carl Tate and Gary Kerger, all of them did an amazing job, mainly Matt Cushman's efforts to design the interior of that for the shuttlecraft. You know, we don't know what that is for sure. It looks like it, but, you know. It
feels like it ought to be, but yeah.
So we had some fun with that. I mean, it was amazing. They did a really fantastic job on that and fitting a couple of little what a Klingon TOS shuttlecraft would look like too. Matt's vision and others that worked on it. Matt really worked on that, and he did an amazing job. He's doing a cutaway also of that, a poster. I don't know if you saw that. I forgot to mention that, but TOMY will ship with each model this large cutaway poster of the Klingon ship that Matt Cushman is designing. It's an original cutaway. You know, Matt's and his brother Chris also have done some amazing cutaways over the years.
The whole industry of the 3D.
Yeah, those Cushman cutaways are kind of setting the standard, you know, for those. And Matt is working on one for the Klingon ship, and it's just going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing. And that's going to be rolled up in the box because the box is pretty good size, so won't be any creases on it. It'll be rolled up so that you could mount that or display that as you will as when you get your kit.
Melanie, I for one have posted this back and forth at times over the years in different socials, putting Davy Jones and Walter next to each other, looking like they're in their monkeys, their beetle turned monkeys turned Starfleet. Let's see. Hey, Philip. Always loved the ability to change the names with the decals, and some space shuttle models do that too. They don't put the. That's interesting. I never even stopped to think about it. They don't include Challenger and Columbia in the decal sheets. That's, if you wanted to honor them, that seems interesting.
Yeah. And as far as the Estes model kit, when they made the flying rockets model kits, which came out on April, they were available in stores April 1st, Fool's Day, 1975. Both the Klingon ship and the Enterprise kit. I remember when the Estes model, because the 1976 catalog, Estes catalog, had the space shuttle, remember, on the cover of it. But prior to that, in 75, it had artist renderings of the Klingon ship and the Enterprise on the cover. And then it announced that we were making flying model rocket kits. And if you look in my book, I found a couple photographs of Estes representatives who visited the Smithsonian, I think in 1976, in February of 76. and they brought along completed versions of the flying model rocket kit for the Estes Klingon ship and the Estes Enterprise, and I think they donated them to the Smithsonian. And Mike Collins, Apollo 11 astronaut, didn't walk on the moon but stayed on board during the mission, who became the director of the Smithsonian at the time, he brings out the filming model of the Klingon ship and poses for some photographs, so you can see that next to the Estes models, and it's really, really cool. I understand, I've built both of those. I understand that the Klingon kit actually flies a lot better.
Well, the Enterprise kit had that ridiculously long.
Yeah. It just although some people reported that they were fine with the Enterprise kit.
Well, here's the thing: if you bought any like I built the Mercury Redstone Estes, or maybe it was Centauri. I don't remember. Anyway,
they did one too. Centauri made one as well. Yeah.
If you go to all the trouble to build an historical flying model rocket, the last thing you want to do is fly it. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to take, parachute or not, I'm not going to take a chance of the soft landing busting it. It's like no way, especially the Enterprise.
An M80 underneath your favorite model kit, you know, I mean, you might as well just throw it on the ground and stomp on it, because you never know what's going to happen.
There you go. So Philip, who I met, had a lot of fun meeting you at STLV and reading your book now. There you go. My figure, amazing conversation. There you go. Yeah, I was going to say, if I had known you were going to talk about Inside Star Trek, I've got 3 or 4 sets. I would have pulled them out and had them ready to show off here. Maybe we can still do it, but now I had not put 2 and 2 together about that. Was great. I remember it was the rear view of the Klingon of the D7, right?
Yeah, it was basically the same angle that you see on the AMT model kit box art. Okay, yeah. So but the front dome, you know, of the boom is a little kind of weird in the sketch, but he's got some details on there that are like I said, unique to the filming model that aren't present on the tooling model. Which
the only one that would know those details is the murderer.
Yes,
kind of thing. So here's Captain Calvin, who's also always one of our big question askers. Is that Kirk on a motorbike in your background behind you?
Oh yeah. No, that's Spock.
Oh, it's Spock on him.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a kind of like a shag-like print if you're into the tiki side of things. I picked that up at Star Trek Las Vegas last year from memory escapes me, but it's the person who played the Salt vampire.
Sandy.
Yeah, Sandy, that's it.
Oh, okay.
She was selling those there, and if you look at it really close, there's a little caricature of her as the creature, you know, in the background.
Oh, okay.
And then Spock.
Oh, that's why she
moving along in his scooter.
Yeah. Oh, that was you, Scott. Thank you for that report, Scott.
Eagle eye.
Yes. Gray and metallic. Okay. Pink Klingons are the most dangerous.
No, pink tribbles are the most dangerous.
there we go. Now, what are you sending us here, Scott? Trek Core. Oh, there we go. Yeah. The gallery shots. How can I forget the pink TAS one? Yep. Yes. Looks very metal. Everybody. Well, everybody, what I'm talking, yes, the Klingon communicator that's very front and center, and there's photos of it from the movies. We're talking about the really, I could say simple or I could say cheap, but the barely there little communicator. It's more like shapes with a lid that flips, because apparently the whole galaxy uses a flip top communicator.
Apparently, you know, flip phones were big now.
Years ago. That was the big comeback for flip phones. All the cultures are using them.
We know that it was silver and gold. The lid was silver, and it was solid. It didn't have any holes on it, like the classic communicator that Hua-Chang designed for the original series. And then the body was gold, and we don't know, you know, what the inside. Of course, what was it? The agonizers. Remember the agonizers?
Oh yeah.
I think those were the Klingon communicators.
I swear the thing that not Tom Paris. I keep wanting to say Lorca. That's Discovery Larry. Robbie's character in First Duty, that led the Nova Squadron. Anyway, his ship that he had in the animated lower decks looks just like an agonizer to me. It's like it's a flying agonizer.
It's agonizer.
Somebody's going to scream it at me here in a second. Okay, I think we're at the end of the chat, guys. I think we're at the end of the chat, and I need to thank you, Nick Locarno. Thank you, Captain Calvin. That's why I was trying to say Lorca. See, I was trying to come.
Yeah. It's hard to be quick on some of these things. I'm not as quick to remember some of these details. I paused.
Now everybody's flying in here. Yeah, Nick Locarno. I just thought, I was like, the first time it flew in, you could see it. I was like, that looks like a flying agonizer. That same basic wedge shape. Yeah, I think we're done, Glenn. I think we're done.
Well, I hope fans, followers will, if they can, take a chance to get one of the Klingon ships from TOMY, because once they're out, that's it. It's like all the others. They break the molds afterwards, and they don't produce them again. So it's a unique item. And the Klingon ship really is. I mean, I look at the model. I have it sitting right in front of me here. The AMT kit, and
wait! You built it as a two-tone?
I did. Well, yeah, I built several of them as a two-tone because we're still trying to figure out what shade of green and what shade of gray, to kind of paint the finished model that we're going to be selling, because it's so challenging. Color and temperature of lighting makes so much difference from photographs. That's why.
Good thing that didn't happen with the Enterprise.
Yeah, right. So I've built a few of them to paint in some of the shades that we think we're going to have. Believe it or not, the gray has been the most challenging to do, because gray can change so much, with lighting and angles, and there's angles all over the place on the AMT kit, so it's really, really challenging to get the get the right shade. And the only one that we know of that has the two-tone today is the tooling model, which is as far as we know is still in the possession of the museum. It used to be Museum of Popular Culture. Remember MoPop?
Yeah,
in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah. But they've been selling off a lot of those assets.
Yeah, and we've been eagle-eyeing, the Romulan or the Klingon kit, and so far we haven't heard that that's gone up, through the grapevine, but it might eventually. I don't know. But we've been trying to get access to it so that we could nix it. Take one of those little digital devices and at least get the color on the gray and the green of that model. To help reproduce it accurately for our results. And as a bonus, maybe get the colors on the trifoil as well, the red, green, and black and white, shade of white that's on there. But, we're at the mercy of them. So we're trying to do as best as we can based on, photographs of it. So.
Okay. Well, I really feel like I need to let you go, Glenn. We've had a great time. Yeah. And so the TOMY backer campaign ends at 3 p.m. No, noon Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Eastern. That's right. I was getting around to that.
Yep.
12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. So that would be 5 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Central Europe, guys. If you decide you want to
double check on the web page on there as well. The question about the shipping, that's a very valid one. I don't want to lead you astray and say it's only $50 because I don't know.
Yep.
But that certainly is a valid one that perhaps has been answered before. I'm sure it's out there, but you can ask it again on their web page.
And then this guy, look at that image there, taking a tour at NASA. So this guy, Inspired Enterprise, Glenn's book is still very much. Is there a better place for folks to pick it up, Glenn?
You can order them directly from me, and I'll send them to you signed. So feel free to. I'm on Facebook, just Glenn Swanson. You can just message me if you want a copy, and I'll sell it. It's $45 with shipping, and I'll sign it to you. If you want it inscribed, I'll inscribe it, or just sign my name, Glenn Swanson, wherever your preference is. And I'll mail it to you in a really, really cool mailer that says Star Trek on it. You've probably seen it. It's a bubble pack.
It's the coolest mailer. I saved it. I don't know where mine is. Oh, here it is. I told you I saved it.
Yeah,
This is the mailer. Glenn custom designed these mailers. See, it's like the NASA logo only with the Trek and the Enterprise.
yeah.
Anyway,
Carl Tate did the
I
video
saved
artwork.
mine.
Yeah, on those, and then they were based on a kind of a hash of the meatball, you know, the NASA meatball, and then the Trek logo on there. So when people see that in the mail, a lot of people don't know that's, you know, when they get the book, but when they see that, they say, "Oh, that must be the book," because it couldn't be anything else.
It's got to be it. Glenn, this is so much fun. Thank you. I'm glad you reached out. Everybody should know about have the option. Everybody should know that this is, even if you don't pick up a D7, you should know that this is happening. It's allowed to happen. That people want to do that. They think there's enough faith to make it financially possible, you know, economically possible as a commercial product, and that, you know, the studio jumped in and licensed it, and TOMY has a good enough reputation. Like, all those things mattered enough and came together enough to, and TOMY reached out and had Glenn and everyone else there, Gary and Matt, and who am I leaving out now? Carl Tate.
Yep.
Thought enough to have experts like that from different fields pull together on this. So that's how close, when you say they answer their Facebook query, you know, their customer service is good. It's because they're close to the fandom company like that, and they care a lot about getting it done right. So, and they've been around.
We've listened to the fans, you know, since the TOS Enterprise came out. We've listened, you know, on the refit and, you know, of what concerns and issues, and of course learning in the process. By the way, when that refit comes out, it's absolutely going to be amazing. you will just drool when you see that when it comes out. It's really going to be something. But yeah, I mean, we try to listen to folks to get there. Just like, you know, we're talking about the colors here, you know, trying to get nail the color down for the TOMY two-tone.
Well, oh, Dan, I love the sunglasses wearing Tribble. Well, Dan, I thought I've told you this. So that Tribble is from Trials and Tribulations. It's a motorized car with the ball of fur over it, the same way John Dwyer used wind-up animals. Joe Monac had battery-driven cars for that, geared down. And those aren't just any sunglasses. Here, since you brought it up, has nothing to do with the D7. Here, where are you, Dan? I didn't just make this up. Here you go. Boom. These are the glasses you wore in the Borg 3D at Vegas at the experience. And then the last time we went through, about a week or two before they closed, we weren't there closing weekend, but just a couple of weeks to go, as we filed out and you're supposed to dump your glasses in the bin there, I kept mine. Because come on, they're not going to need them after a couple of weeks. So yeah. Anyway, has nothing to do with the Klingons and D7s today, but I thought I would answer that. So there you go.
Well,
Glenn,
on the Tribble thing there, when Matt does his big cutaway poster, look at it really, really close. You're going to see some Easter eggs in there. And one of them might be a fuzzy little thing hidden in some air duct or whatever.
Just might be where there's no Tribble at all.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, Glenn, thanks so much for jumping in today. It's always fun to have a guest on Tuesdays live here, and really appreciate it. And
it was my pleasure.
I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like the campaign is in good shape. So we'll send a few more eyeballs over that way at least.
Excellent.
Okay. Thanks much, man.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right, bye-bye. Let me see. And there we go. All right, everybody. I think that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody. I think we got through the chat. You know, when it's a guest day, we don't do the normal midway break and all that. So, and we had Glenn in for a long time. This is, again, one of those shows where if you know, you know, or if you're in the weeds with us, you're in the weeds. And if you're not, you probably don't care. But it's been good to see everybody. Thanks, everybody, for stopping by today and catching up with everybody. I know the chat is its own thing. So I love seeing all the conversations breaking out. I feel like we have two different shifts. We have folks who are early shift, and then we have the second shift showing up. So it's good to see everybody as you come in and out. And again, it's fun to have, you know, Glenn and the folks of his ilk with us. And again, if you know, his book is amazing. I'm surprised no one thought to do that kind of a book before. I'm glad he did it. You can tell Glenn is a stickler for details and research and footnoting and sourcing. So it's an awesome book for all kinds of people. There's going to be so much overlap. Good, not just from Star Trek world, but from aeronautics. And anytime anybody out there in the great mundane world wants to look at the intersection of pop culture and science, engineering, NASA, space, Glenn's book is going to be a primary reference for those, which means also that that's putting Star Trek out there. Not that it's a contest, but Star Trek more than Star Wars, Doctor Who, Marvel, yada, 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 because no other IP franchise, when we talk about that world, we talk about Comic-Con world and who's at the table. There's nothing to compare. I don't think. Am I wrong here? Maybe a little bit. Some of the more modern, like, are they franchises? Did The Expanse run long enough? Did Stargate run long enough to overlap any? I don't know. But there's so many scientists who are trying to act as advisors. I don't mean the scientists can't act. I mean, are the productions listening to them? Are we reforming all of that? Anyway, it's been great to get to know Glenn here the last 2 or 3 years. Even if we have met live, we just haven't made a go of it to be longer than 2 minutes, which is insane. But thanks everybody for being with us again today for Tuesday. And what did I just do with everybody? They're all right here. Thanks again for being with us. And of course, and I didn't get this updated. Sorry, everybody. But I'm gonna thank most of all here our Portales. No, not our Portales. Our Patreons, our Patreonies. So everybody, thanks so much. Would you please? And give a thanks out to our TTL club, our Trekland Tuesdays Live club on Patreon. That's Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbert Gunjonson, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Justin Weir, Andrew Jazemski, Josh Patton, Pronicotish Productions, Keith Rombach, and Comedy Forecast. And then our live wires. Yep, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Brandon Coles, Dan Leckie, Dave Gregory, Chris Jiggins, Chris Garris, sorry, and Casey Shafsky. Thanks so much, you all. And for those of you new here, it's a $5, $10 commitment every month on PayPal, on Patreon, who uses a PayPal-like system to bring it out. PayPal.com/Trekland Live. That supports all of the live streaming that we try to do here through the week. Big announcement, and if you didn't know already, we are back. Season 14 for the Trek Files is up there. The anniversary that no one is celebrating, aside from maybe one panel at Vegas on Mark's stage. It's the 60th anniversary already of Where No Man's Gone Before, the second pilot that actually sold the series. And to talk about Where No Man is the great George Takei is with us this week on the Trek Files. We're kicking off season 14. They're all there at the trekfiles.com. You can back scroll, but we're putting out the new ones again. Can't wait to have everybody. And if you want to jump into the Trek Files community and be a Trekophile, spelled with an F, we have our live show every other Monday at 4 p.m. Just did it yesterday. You have to be in the Roddenberry Patreon. The bad news is you have to be in the Roddenberry Patreon, the Mission Log Patreon, to do that. The good news is it's only $1 a month. So if you can spare to go both ways, that would be awesome. You also get access to all of the Roddenberry Patreon Discords. It's on Discord. Good grief. So you're in their Patreon getting access to the Discord from Trek Files, boom. Also all the other Roddenberry shows. Also all the Roddenberry sponsored fan meeting groups, community groups, and their weekly or semi-weekly shows. There's beyond even the amount of Roddenberry podcasts. There are shows. One of these days I'm going to get a list and tell you about it. Or we'll have somebody on from that and come over here and do that. That's actually a topic we should do. We're going to be approaching a big fallow time, gang. You're going to see number 9 this week, and then number 10, and then Strange New will be done for the 3rd season. And then we can really start assessing if the honeymoon is really over or not. It'll be interesting to see what time does for our perception of where this Strange New World season has gone. Other than that, gang, I really appreciate you hanging in with me. Again, it's Larry Nemechek on Twitter or Blue Sky, right? It's Larry's Trekland. If you haven't done so, please subscribe here on YouTube or Facebook or, Instagram. And portal47.net. Take a look. It's backstaging. Hey, Portales, this is Ask Dr. Trek Roundtable Prime Edition. It's the first week of the month. So Wednesday night, we'll be looking at some of the recent cons. We just had Destination in the UK, just had the Orlando show for Creation in Florida. There's other conventions happening too. We'll see what happened last weekend over Labor Day. Dragon Con. Do I have any survivors of Dragon Con? We might. We'll see. But that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much. I'm glad everybody enjoyed Glenn, who was here. Just if you can't support it with a purchase, just be aware of what Tomy's doing, and that's the kind of dedicated fanish model work that's preserving Star Trek and doing so well in all the ways. That's going to do it for us, gang. Please, please, please. I've had a sick lady here in the house. No, it's not COVID. It's some bug going around. So I will just say, please stay well, healthy, do all the things, and please stay woke, check the sources. And you know what I mean. Other than that, I guess we'll see you next week, gang. Trek well, everybody. Till then.